These concerns you? Zoom's a great company. They have a great product. But as Josh just said, is what they do so unique only to them? Are there others on this list that you need to ask yourself the very same question that Josh just put out here?
You should always ask yourself that question, Scott.
Well, let's ask it. I mean, let's go down this list. Are there other names here?
I'm asking you, Doc.
Do any of them concern you at all?
Well, so for instance, Scott, like Josh's point with Teams, with Google, and with Zoom, you've got some people that have already adopted over to Zoom. You've got others that are part of Teams and Google Meet and so forth. But there's a distrust of some of the biggest tech companies out there, like Microsoft, like Google. To a certain extent, several others fall into that category. So I'm not saying that you justify the valuation based on that, Scott. But then you look at another one. I mean, I'm lucky enough, like Josh, to have owned Zoom for a very long time. I also own Chegg. And Chegg, the more we see people, colleges and high schools that want to operate remotely, this isn't a Zoom for those. This is for textbooks. This is for delivery of course load and so forth. So the more you think we might be sitting around rather than in classrooms doing things remotely, Chegg and LRN, another stock that I bought, are two that are going to just continue to feast on that.
So none of these stocks concern you then? I mean, it's fine if none do. I'm not telling you that they have to.
All of them concern me, and I'll shut up, but all of them concern me. But that's why you get these kinds of returns. You don't get 300% or 70% or even 50%, a meager 50, Scott. You don't get those kinds of returns from things with no risk. There's always risk. Scott, you try to define it, and you cut the risk as much as you can.
But Stephanie, at some point you make a decision whether the risk becomes too great and you start taking profits in some of these names like you did with PayPal, another stock that we've mentioned on so many different occasions as one of those that has just had a massive run-up.
It's had a massive run-up. It's up 108% from the lows, and it went from 31 times forward, which, by the way, it starts off being expensive in my book. It's now at 50 times forward. Earnings did not move an inch. I know that U.S. e-com growth, spend growth is going to be very, very strong because of the work from home trends that we've seen. In fact, it went from 58% growth to 78% growth month over month, April to May. And I bet anything June even accelerated further. So I know that the numbers are going to come in. I know their total addressable market is $5 billion, and with a plus sign next to that. But I just feel like a lot of good news is priced in. This company has had a history of not executing consistently. And so while I love fintech and I like this company and like its positioning, I think it's prudent to take gains. I'm not going to apologize to taking a 108% gain because I was buying in March.
I'm writing this down. A lot of good news is priced in because we're going to have a conversation about that, Stephanie Link. Can you hang on a second? Can you hang on a second? I'm going to come to you in just a second. I promise you, okay?
You're going to tease?
Just relax for a second. I'm going to come to you. I promise you, Rob. A lot of good news is priced in is a conversation I want to have leading into the big tech earnings coming up later in the week, which we'll do that in a second. But yes, Rob Sechin, now it is yours.
So I would say everything that Josh said was absolutely right. You have this huge tailwind that you've had with these businesses in the form of the stay-at-home economy. You have a rising tide that's been lifting all ships. You have people that used to do sports betting now focusing on these companies and trading them on the daily. I very much worry that you have low barriers to entry for some of these business models, and I very much worry that this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back as it relates to some of these high valuation tech companies.